Definitely. I find character actors very interesting, and that's what I strive to be, a character actor myself, and I interview a lot of character actors because they just have that presence, and they're just able to play mostly any type of character, and it's so realistic. They make that character believable, and they make it believable, and the audience believes it. And that's very important. You have to make the audience believe you're that character, because if the audience doesn't believe it, then no one will believe it.
Yeah.
Definitely. So you've done theater. Have you also done film and television, or are you just primarily theater?
No, yes, I've done film and television, not at the same scale as I've done theater, and not the same amount. I guess my best success in television was I did have a children's show on PBS for a season. I was a series regular, and it was nominated for an Emmy Award at the time. And it played for a year on CBS and was really successful, but unfortunately they canceled it for whatever reason. I'm sure it was financial and money reason more than creative and success reasons. But that became a bigger success than I expected. It was produced by a friend's company, and he asked me to play the father in the show. It was a father and two kids and a grandpa. And it was a learning show. Every week, every episode, the kids had a different science question and a different sort of moral conundrum. And by the end of the episode, the science question was answered by an expert in the field. We would go and visit museums and planetariums and aquariums and meet an expert in the field and get our science question answered. And by the end of the show, we also would get our sort of moral question answered that the kids were having. And my co-star was Tim Kazurinsky, who was an original member of Saturday Night Live. Mm-hmm. And we had two little kids in it as well, my son and daughter, playing my son and daughter. And, out of barely a budget, the company produced this, and PBS saw it, and they loved it, and it got picked up. So that was my best success on television. That was a regular running show.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it was a shame that it got canceled, because it really it looked like it had a great future ahead of it, including the Emmy nomination. And unfortunately, at that point, the company did not have the money to produce more episodes to get it sold elsewhere. And because there were other PBS affiliates that were interested in it, including the one in New York. It played PBS in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. But by that point, they didn't have the money, and certain legal things happened with some of the financing. One of the backers of it, and there were lawsuits and all sorts of stuff that I had no part of. So unfortunately, it ended long before it should have. It could have really gone on to even more success. So that was my biggest television success. And as far as films go, I've done a lot of independent films that went to lots of festivals, got picked up by a DVD, and went to distribution and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I haven't done a film or a television show in a while, and I'm hoping now that the pandemic may start to come to an end, I have a new manager and agent, and hopefully I'll start getting seen for more film and television again. And I have the last couple of weeks. I've had some auditions.
Definitely. Well, that's good. That's good, and it's important to keep working, because I can tell you have the passion for it. A lot of actors have the passion for it, and, they just want to work, and the pandemic has hit hard, not for just actors, of course, but, hopefully it will be over soon,
Yeah.
My last question... go ahead.
Yes. So what else would you like to know?
My last question would be, what is your advice to people who want to get into acting?
Yeah, that's a question I get asked by young people a lot. And I always preface it with this, and it sounds very cynical, but it's true. And it's a test, I think, and it's something I try and plant in their heads because they have to really think about this seriously. And I always say, if there's something you can do as well as being an artist, being an actor, and love as much, and that's the important thing, love as much, then do that. Because this is the most difficult thing. There's no more difficult career, and life choice, because this is a life choice, than becoming an actor. Because more often than not, you're not going to be working. You're going to spend more time looking for work than you are working. You have to be prepared for impermanence. Impermanence is a way of life. Instability is a way of life. Being told no is a way of life. Having people sort of denigrate or be cynical about what your life choice will also probably be a way of life. Your family many times, people close to you, maintaining relationships is difficult. All of those things that quote-unquote normal people do becomes quite difficult, that normal people take for granted. It's very difficult for an actor to maintain. Unless you become very wealthy and very successful. And even then, there are challenges, the challenges that come with fame and wealth for an actor. So I always preface it with, think really seriously about this choice and what it entails. And then if the answer is, I can't turn away from this has grabbed me by the neck and I can't say no, it's chosen me, I haven't chosen it, then my advice is, then don't let anyone talk you out of it. But go and train and study and work as much as possible, especially in the beginning. Just take whatever work comes your way, as long as it's not denigrating work or making you feel shameful or going against certain principles that you might have as a human being. Just keep on working as much as possible. Student films, small plays, community theater, whatever. Because you learn on the job, but you also learn in the studio. Find a good teacher. Find a teacher that you connect with. You know, a good acting teacher is like finding a good shrink or a good doctor. A lot of them may be good, but they may not work for you. So you have to find the one that's right for you. I didn't find my best teacher, the teacher that connected most with me, until my 40s in Los Angeles. And I studied with, I don't know how many teachers up until that point, as well as going to a grad program for acting. So I had many teachers until I found the one that I really connected with. So there is all of that. When you make a decision to be an actor, you're making a life decision, and you have to be prepared for that. It's not a job or a profession you leave at the office at 5 o'clock. You have to want to live the life of an actor artist.
Definitely. And when you're in it for the long haul, you know. There's no middle ground, you know. Once you're in it, you know. Yeah,
and it doesn't. And I have the majority of my friends I started with left, and I understand their decision because they wanted more stability. They wanted to make a steady paycheck. They found the business absurd and ridiculous, and they saw they weren't getting work. And all of that has come my way too. But I still stayed with it because I never found anything else when I do get to do it that made me as fulfilled. And I tried other things, and I looked at other fields, and I dabbled in other interests and professions and careers and studied other things in college. But there was never anything that was as fulfilling and as inspiring as being in the arts and being an actor. And you also have to look at what makes you happy as a human being. You know, if you want to have kids and a family and you want to live a suburban life, then maybe this isn't the life for you. You have to, you know, weigh all of that. I never wanted children, so that wasn't something I felt I was sacrificing. I never needed a lot of material wealth or stuff. So I always felt, well, if I didn't make a lot of money doing this, it's okay. But you have to take a really honest look at who you are as a human being and what you value and what you want out of life. And you may not know that when you're 18, so give it a shot. And there's nothing lost if after a couple of years you say, no, this isn't for me. You know, I want to to do something else. It's okay.
Definitely. Absolutely. And, it's important to know what you're getting into. And like I said earlier, have a thick skin. And, like I said earlier, it's not for everybody. And I'm glad that I'm in it. I'm glad I started in it young. And I'm very blessed to do the work I do and talk to actors like yourself and other people. And, I just hope to keep working, and I've had times where I'm not working, but I look forward to working when I have the opportunity,
Yeah. Well, I think you also have to maintain the discipline and the attitude that you're not necessarily only successful or only an artist or only an actor when you're working. Mm-hmm. That it really is the complete life that you lead and how you approach it. If I take a class, for example, with my teacher, or I do a session with her, and I have a great hour of playing with her and working on something new, I feel successful that day. If I do a good audition, even if I don't get the job, that's a success that day. And if I go by just the material wealth I've accumulated from this career and the amount of work I've gotten or the prestige of the work, then I don't seem like a success in other people's eyes, maybe. But you have to define what success means to you.
Definitely. Definitely. I was raised by, if you're having fun working, whatever it is, if you're having fun, it's not work,
No, exactly. Exactly. Tomorrow I'm doing a benefit reading for a theater I worked at a couple of years ago because they're having a hard time with the pandemic and they're trying to raise money. So they're getting a bunch of their alum together to tape a Zoom reading of You Can't Take It With You, old comedy done in the 30s. Mm-hmm. And I'm not getting paid for it. I'm doing it for them so they can get help raising money. And they're doing under the auspices of equity. It's union sanctioned, but I'm not making any money from it. But I get that satisfaction of playing and helping an artistic group in a theater I believe in. That's a successful day, and people have to artists have to look at it that way. How many painters, how many musicians, how many composers, writers, day after day went at their work without making a dime from it, but still did it. And I think there's something to be said for that. We have all those stories of Van Gogh never selling a painting, of writers who wrote successful plays early in their career and then, for whatever reason, they stopped getting produced, yet kept on writing every day. Arthur Miller was a huge success after Death of a Salesman. He was a young man when he wrote that. He never achieved that same success with any of his plays after that, but he still wrote every day. Mm-hmm. And I think if you have that kind of love, then that means you belong in it.
Definitely, absolutely. You have to have a passion for it. It's a great passion, and I've learned also if you even have to ask yourself, should I be an actor or should I be a writer? Your answer is automatically don't do it, because you shouldn't have to ask yourself that,
Well, and you quote a great choreographer who was broke most of her life but went at her art every day, Martha Graham, and she said one day a student came up to her and said, should I be a dancer? And she said, well, if you have to ask me that, your answer is no. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And that doesn't mean you don't have doubts. I always have doubts. I have doubts every day. How long can I continue this? Should I continue this? It's okay to question it, but you also have to, once you answer yes, I want to continue, then you have to do your best to get the most out of yourself and your art.
Absolutely. And your art becomes you, you become an entity with your craft, you become one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As I tell friends all the time, there's no separation between me and what I do. again, as I said earlier in the interview, it's a life's choice.